All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Briones Pickleball Podcast. Today, we got a really special guest, and we kind of just met, but really, really good stuff today. We're going to talk a lot about pickleball mindset, setting goals, and just achieving them, and just your mindset in general on the court, in life, and it's going to be a really good, interesting conversation. Today, I have a international performance coach, trainer, speaker, and his name is Jeff Kroll. Jeff.
All right.
What's going on, man?
Doing great, man. Doing awesome.
All right. I'm still figuring out all these controls, man. So
it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
All right.
I love the setup.
Okay. Thanks, man. Yeah. So Jeff is the reason why he's here is because he recently, I guess yesterday, just finished up a 2-day intensive, one of our Briones Pickleball 2-day intensives, and 4 or 5 plus level group, so higher level group. So that was a ton of fun. And Jeff, first off, I just want to thank you and just thank you for coming here from Boise.
Yeah. I live in Meridian, but Boise area. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I told you this, but my wife went to high school in Meridian.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, so it's a small world, right? And I went to school here in Arizona.
That's all. Yeah, and now we're in Arizona. You're in Boise. Where did you go to school here?
Arcadia High School.
Okay, Arcadia. Yeah. That's like north.
Yeah, 44th in Camelback. Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. Well, it says it also says here that you are a best-selling author, and we talked about it a little bit, but you that's what a lot of people know you by. So why don't you tell us just a little bit of what book did you write and how did that come about?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I'm a business coach. I work primarily with business owners and help people elevate beyond their beliefs in achieving their goals. And so years ago, I was working with my business clients in the financial industry, a client in Australia, and he wanted to quit his job, and he felt hopeless, he felt lost, he felt like he wasn't getting the results that he wanted, he felt like he couldn't find ideal clients to build his business fast enough, and he went down this rabbit hole that he was stuck in, and I told him, oh no, you can do this, you've been doing this for 15 years. If I can find a client, like if you drop ship me in Australia, I can find a client. I was like, you should be able to do that. And he's like, well, what would you do? And I went over these 5 steps that are now called my 5th power formula.
Okay.
And at the end of the call, he was excited, inspired, like ready to get into action, hung up the phone, said, I'll talk to you in next week and all this. And he was back on track. And then I looked in a mirror because I always had a mirror in front of me when I work with clients online, just so I can see myself. And
so like you mean when you're like on a Zoom call?
Yeah. So if I'm on a Zoom call, behind my wall is a mirror, so I can see my own eyes. Now in Zoom today, right, it's much easier. But 20 years ago, I wasn't using Zoom. We were just making phone calls and things like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
But Zoom, you can actually see yourself now, so that's kind of cool. You don't need the mirror as much.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I looked in the mirror and I was just like going, bam. I was like, that's some good advice. I mean, have you ever had that, right? You like give some good advice and you're like, dang, I should probably do that on myself.
Yeah.
We have those moments, right, where we're just like, man, I should do that. I don't know why I'm not doing that. And the place that I was stuck at the time was I went through a divorce, and I was just stuck in this place that I would never find my soulmate. I had this belief that was just stuck there. And it was the same thing that he was describing about his business.
Wow.
And it just clicked for me. And so long story short, basically, I followed those same 5 steps, and I purchased 2 fully paid cruise tickets for me and the woman of my dreams, not knowing who she was. And
wait a minute. So back up. So what do you mean you purchased tickets
Yeah.
for somebody you didn't know or you did know?
I didn't know. So
how did you find her?
one of
So
the
you found her before.
Yeah. So one of the things I teach, one of the things I teach is you've gotta set the mindset that it's already a slam dunk, like you already made the putt or whatever.
Okay.
It's just like it's a done deal, and the way you do that is you project into the future. Right? So you create a goal, a vision, or something in the future. And so to make it real, my thing was, hey, we'd be sipping daiquiris on the deck of a cruise, me and the woman of my dreams, and that would be the woman that I marry. And I would tell people that all the time when I was looking for my soulmate. And that vision that I had of us doing that required me to buy 2 tickets to this cruise that was, at the time, it was like in March, and the cruise was at the end of the year, So I was thinking, I got tons of time to find that special person, right? And following my 5 steps. And then the funny part is, when I bought the ticket, the lady was like, so who's going with you? I'm like, oh, it's my soulmate, right? And she's like, well, who is that? I was like, I don't know who she is yet. I haven't met her. Maybe you know her, And she's like, no, we need a name. You're going.
Oh, so you did buy?
Yeah, they're like
the other ticket.
You're going out of the country, and we need a name to put down on the ticket. I was like, well, I don't have a name yet. I was like, but she's gonna be there, and she's just like, well, this is non-refundable, and we need a name by. And I was like, well, by when? And she's like, August. And it just scared the heck out of me. I was like, by August? I'm like, I got to find her and then build enough relationship and then invite her to some cruise,
Wow, okay.
And so that scared me, and I wanted to quit, right? Because the mindset says, hey, I want to quit, right? When you make a big goal and then you get confronted right away with something that's kind of aligned with your past belief, it's like you want to give up. And so at that point, I was just like, oh, no, I'm in. And so I went on 43 dates in 120 days to find the woman of my dreams. And sure enough, I did. We've been married for 17 years now.
Wow, man.
4 kids.
Congrats,
and, all of that was just from that one coaching call that I learned from when I was teaching a client. And then everybody kept telling me, hey, that's such a great story. You should write a book. You should do a movie and all this stuff. And I ended up just fighting it for years. And I was like, why am I being stingy, not teaching people this? I teach it anyhow on my business side.
Sure, yeah.
I just never done it on the love side. And then all of a sudden I've been helping people find their soulmate. Like I was in San Diego just 2 months ago. And one of my clients found their soulmate, and I was at their wedding, and they're just like, man, I couldn't have done it if I didn't, listen to your coaching and your mindset and all that stuff. So
wow, man, that's cool.
It's funny. So
that's awesome, dude. So to recap, wait a minute. So you went through a tough divorce.
Yeah.
And then you got stuck in this mindset where you just didn't think, or you correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't think that you could find love again or find somebody again.
It was a broken heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you set this goal, like, okay, I'm gonna marry or find this person to go on a cruise with.
I had an epiphany.
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of times you get these blind spots, like you can't see. Like sure. I didn't feel like I had a broken heart. Yeah. Life was good. I felt good. I was dating, I was doing things, but I was nowhere in the near of like focus and intention on finding the woman of my dreams because, I always wanted to be a father. Wow. And when I was, after I got off that coaching call, when I was really looking at myself and what I was doing in my life, I was like, I wasn't doing actions that were in aligned to what I wanted. And so because of that, that's what got me to go, okay, I'm all in. Let's do something about it.
Okay. So how did you, so you had it until August, you tried to book a ticket and they wouldn't let you without a name, right?
Right.
So how do you plan 43 dates in 100 or whatever days? Like just logistically, like how does that work?
I'll show you the short version, right?
Yeah, short version. Yeah.
So there's 5 steps, right? And so the first one is the power of clarity and focus. And so first off, I had to figure out, what is it that I really wanted? What was the real goal? Because a lot of times we kind of go, yeah, here's where I am now. This is where I want to be. But there's so much distance in between. It's like this infinity gap that's there, right? It just seems always like every step I take forward, I'm still can't see the end of the bridge, so to speak, right? There's this gap that just seems infinity-like. And so first off, you got to get clarity on that vision and then start with just the one step, right? Because a lot of times, like when you're climbing a mountain, right, you hit the first peak and you think you're up there and you're done.
Yeah.
And then you're like looking up and you're like, oh my God, there's another peak, and you get to the next one, like climbing Camelback Mountain. You go around the corner and you think, oh yeah, I'm there. And then you're like, oh no, I'm not. You go up the next one and then, and so, but if you look back, you start to realize, man, I've come a far way, but we don't acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So the clarity and focus is key, right? So first you got to map that out, know what you want, and know like the characteristics, the values, the attributes, just what it is that you're really intending to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So clarity is one.
Yeah. And then the second one is the power of asking in community. So I believe everything is possible. You've heard of 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Years ago there was the Kevin Bacon game where, Kevin Bacon is connected to anybody in the world based off his movies and different things. It's just the whole connection thing, right? Within a degree, 2 degrees, like even if you look at LinkedIn, they even categorize that. They'll say, hey, your first connections, 5,000 people. Well, Your second connections, if those connections connected you to their connections, 2.3 million.
It just amplifies.
If those 2.3 million, if you connected those to the 4th generation, 10, 20 million, whatever, right? It just compounds.
Yeah.
So I believe that same philosophy. Like I believe that no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish, there's a connection that's there, right?
Sure.
And so that's what I did. So once you have clarity and then you have connections, like that the community that you're looking for, right? Then it's a matter of just asking. Most people can't do that, right? They're afraid of it. They feel like...
it's like just putting yourself out there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because asking, you feel vulnerable. You feel a lot of times like, you're not worthy or something, or you feel like you're being a bother to somebody, or, a lot of times people do that, and that's not the truth. Because if I asked you, hey, if someone came to you and asked you to help out and they needed your assistance, the first thing is people want to contribute, right? If it's somewhat reasonable, they would want to, people want to help. It's not like, I don't want to contribute. I don't want to make a difference. I don't want to do. No, most people do, but no one ever asks them.
Yeah.
Right? No one reaches out.
Yeah.
And so that's why I believe in that community thing. So once I did that, I went to my communities. Like, heck, if you're single and you play pickleball and pickleball is important to you and you want someone in your life that plays pickleball, would you go to church to find that person? Or would you actually go to pickleball places to find out?
Bunch of tournaments, huh?
Bunch of tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because the community's already there.
Got it. Okay.
Right? And then if you talk to the community, that can compound. And before you know it, you can go on 43 dates in 120 days and find that person.
Okay.
But the thing is most of the clients that I've ever worked with don't even go on more than 12 dates, which is funny. But because
they probably, or you've probably developed systems.
I've developed systems
to narrow it down.
To narrow it down even better.
Yeah.
Like, So I was the
Interesting.
guinea pig.
Okay, so what are the last three powers that you
Yeah.
teach really quick?
So then
it
it's
was
the power of planning
okay.
and preparation, and then the power of action and reflection, and then the secret power is what I call my fifth power, and that's the fifth power within yourself. And so what that is that's broken down into four pieces. The first one is your belief system, right? So the beliefs that you have for yourself and in your capabilities. The second one is your purpose. Are you actually living into your purpose? The third one is high performance habits. So I'm a certified high performance coach.
Yeah.
And so the Institute of High Performance does millions of studies all over. They look at all the top performers, and there's certain habits that they all have within themselves. And so those top performers that consistently produce results, they have consistent habits there. So matching those habits. And then the last one is to be intentional. And that's hard for most people because most of the time we're on autopilot. You know, we're just going through the motion.
Man, that sounds just like a pickleball and people I coach, huh?
Exactly, right? Like when you're playing pickleball with someone, right, and you see them get out of their head or get into their head, right? They're on automatic pilot. They don't even realize that they lost those last 3 points because they're not present and they're not being intentional for the next shot. And so a lot of that is that piece. So those four elements together is kind of like my fifth power formula and the flow of that around. Okay. So.
All right, cool. I like that. Not to stay on the love story thing, but like, so you did 43 dates in 100, what is it?
120 days.
Yeah, 120 days. Now, here's a good question. What date was she? The one you ended up marrying?
Yeah. Well, she was my 43rd. So
so you did. So it's not like you came back.
Let me say this right.
Okay.
So there's 32 women that I went out with.
Sure.
Some of them I went on second dates.
Got it.
But it ended up to 43. But she was the 32 woman, the 32nd woman that I went out with. And once we went out, like I knew instantaneously she was the one. And so I actually had to call. I probably had another 10 dates already booked.
Booked, huh?
In the calendar. I know, it's so weird to say all this.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it from a business perspective, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I already had 10 potential ideal clients, right? If you say, I already had 10 potential women that I was going to go out with, that's kind of like, what?
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Well, that's cool.
And so I had to call them all and just say, I found the woman of my dreams, and I would hate to go out on a date with you knowing that I'm thinking of her. So I just want to let you know ahead of time. And almost all of them said, like, oh, well, you should call me back if it doesn't work out.
So you guys have 4 kids now.
Yep, 4 kids.
And wow, 17 years. That's awesome, man. So this is not really pickleball related, but for those of you who are trying to find that soulmate or that loved one that you want to be with. So what's one tip, Jeff? And there's a ton, right? But what is the main thing that you tell people if they're searching for that? Like what do you? I mean, there's a million, things to go. So we talked about clarity, like talking about what you want, and also, being intentional about community and like searching all that out. But what is the main thing that you look for? Like,
well, this is really a lot like pickleball because it's just a goal. Like, think about that, right? I mean, what would be the first thing you would tell someone that came to you that said, I had this goal to win a tournament, right?
Yeah.
It's usually starts with their belief system, right? Like, are they able to, are they not able to, right?
Sure.
Because if their belief system is just like, oh, I don't want to say I want to win a tournament, that's so far away, I don't even think that's possible.
Yeah.
Right? Then that's there, right? And same with finding a soulmate, same thing. It's like, oh, well, I don't know if, that seems so hard. There's not enough good men. There's not enough good women. Like there's the same justifications that show up. So the number one thing is always mindset that shows up. I think the easiest tip that I can give someone is to, get clarity and focus first, which is what is it that you want? Spend some time making that big long list.
Yeah.
And then chunk it down into no more than, 5 bullet points, because anything over 5, your brain's not going to remember. And when you start to communicate that to other people in the power of asking in community, you're not going to remember more than 5 things that I say.
Sure.
So
sure, yeah.
You can't have the big long list. Here, let me show you the big long list and go through it. Yeah. Right? So that would be the big thing.
Okay. Cool. I like that, man. All right. So, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, Jeff just finished a 2-day Briones Pickleball 2-day intensive. How was that, Jeff? And let's talk about actually, you signed up a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think that with scheduling and stuff, it took a while to find the right group, because it's like 4 or 5 plus, so it's a higher level group.
Yeah.
But you haven't been playing that long. I know you have a high level tennis background, you have a high level soccer background, but what made you sign up? And I think you have a story, like you signed up without even really doing a ton of information. A lot of people actually, when they sign up, they've been watching me for years. What was your experience?
Right. I know. I remember our first call. You're like, "How did you find me?" Or what was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the bottom line was it came from a goal. So a buddy of mine introduced me to pickleball. I was playing at one of the parks there in Meridian, and I bought these wooden paddles.
Wow.
For my kids.
Yeah.
And because we saw the little courts, and I was like, oh yeah, let's, everybody talks about this. Let's, I went to Walmart. I bought the little 2-pack with the balls and wooden paddles, bought 2 sets of them for the kids. And we went out and played, and I started hitting, and people were like, you're pretty good at this. And I was like, well, this is my first time, we don't even know the rules, and they're teaching the rules, and then I was teaching the kids, and then there was another gentleman there that I played singles with.
Yeah.
And he kicked my butt. And then he goes, you're good, and he's like, and how many times have you played? And it was, and that at that time, I think it was like my 3rd time to play, or something when I played him. And it really shifted everything to me. And then I realized there's this different types of paddles, right?
So you were actually playing with wooden.
Yeah, I was playing with a wooden paddle.
Okay.
And then I go, oh, well, Costco has these things on sale. They usually have good stuff. I'll just get the Costco ones, right? You saw the 2-pack Costco's years ago.
I think it's Selkirk, right?
Yeah, Selkirk. Yeah, there's graphite one or whatever. Mm-hmm. I started playing with that. I was like, oh, this is so much easier, and I would get a lot of spin, and people were like, how do you get that spin, and then someone showed me the carbons once, and I was like, oh, I just like connected with that.
Yeah.
And so, but anyhow, so that's how I got involved with it. But so when I first started playing and he beat me in singles, I thought, wow, there must be more to this game. And I came across one of your videos that was on, and I watched it, and I was like, this guy knows his stuff, because I had a tennis background, so I know tennis coaches. Yeah. And the way you were describing things, I knew. I was like, okay, that's exactly how tennis is, or this is, I can see the difference. Like, you don't do that in tennis, but you would do that in pickleball.
Sure. And
it was really clear to me, and I was like, if I'm going to elevate my game, I'm going to need a coach. And that's another tip, is always have a coach. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Like, you need a coach. You can't see the blind spots in you elevating your performance level without a coach. Yeah. A lot of times, that blind spot will like compound your results. Like
in a negative way.
No, in a positive way.
Oh, you're saying if you see them.
If you can see them, right? Because right now I might say, hey, I need to focus on my dinks, right? Like that's how I came to you. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not really good at the dinking, so I want to improve that, right? But the blind spot wasn't that. The blind spot was more of like my positioning of my feet, the positioning of where the ball's going, the different patterns that are there. Like that was the real blind spot. I may have known what it was, but I didn't know what was really there.
Yeah.
Like when I go back and play now, I'm going to have an elevated game in that, not by a little bit, but maybe like a 2x, a 5x, a 10x difference.
Yeah.
Because just that knowledge of that, and then me bringing intentionality in the moment will compound that really quickly.
Sure. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun group. I actually, let's see here. You know what? I might show it later. But yeah, fun group of guys, kind of from all over. We had one local one. But what is there's a lot of takeaways, right? We had dinner together yesterday. But what's like one of the big ones that you took away, like going in? One of the biggest ones for you that it's going to make a big difference in your game.
Well, definitely what I just said, like that pattern, knowing the patterns that the pros do and how you were able to teach us in a blind way, like you were teaching us certain things to do. And then when we watched the pros play, you kind of linked everything together, and made you think, oh, that's why we've been doing this exercise or this exercise, because you put those two together. And then when we started playing games, it became more and more part of the pattern. So that was a huge thing for sure. My footwork, I think, was another one, like really knowing my footwork. Because a lot of times I don't watch video myself. I don't,
I think 99% of people don't.
I know, exactly, right?
Yeah.
I know when you get serious, you do. I mean, that's just what professionals do, And so, so that was another big one. Another one was, let's see. I think there was the other big thing was when we were doing the, I guess speed ups.
Yeah.
That was another one where the thing about that was I have a tendency to hit really hard.
Yeah. Jeff hits really, really hard. Tennis banger. So.
I know.
But you have a good soft game.
Yeah.
Man,
and that's the funny part. But what happened is that I learned when you said one tip, you're like, okay, just do that same thing, but knock it down to 60%, or knock it down to 50% or something.
Yeah.
I could still hit the same shot, and I didn't recognize how much more effective that was to kind of combinationally put that in there with the power shot.
Yeah.
And just keep that same power shot just at a slower pace.
Yeah, man.
And that was a huge thing too. Like, I've played around with that. Like when people are like, oh, he's just a big banger, and I'll show up and I'll just hit all nice soft shots, and play at 30% or something. Like, he's really not that bad of a banger.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it like intentionally that I could use that. And when you showed me that, again, that was a blind spot. I just had no clue. So now I know when I go back, I'm going to be hitting a little bit, slower in certain shots.
Yeah.
To bring that.
That's good, man. Yeah, Jeff is obviously kind of typical. I call you my typical tennis player case.
Yeah.
Super high level skills. Super, good movement, good strokes, everything. It's just putting it together. And all the other 3 guys we had in the group were kind of came from different. It was good because everyone had their own style. So
Yeah.
it was fun, man.
Yeah, it was great.
All right. So back to the mindset thing, because you coach a ton of business professionals, right?
Yeah.
And also just corporate people and help them with like the clarity and all that stuff. So, obviously our viewers in the pickleball space and the people who are even watching and listening to this, they love pickleball, either, generally in life, but just specifically in pickleball. When a lot of people have either hit plateaus or they don't know where to go from there or from where they're at, or they don't know how to improve. So what's a couple of just mindset tips that you can give just in general? And then we'll actually talk about some like on the court, because I'm sure that you have a lot of experience on handling things like live.
Yeah. Well, the first thing in mindset is to understand just the basics, so from basic psychology, the way our mind works is it's a set of beliefs, right? So, and we get these beliefs primarily when we're young, like, because when you're young, your brain cells, you're getting all these neural pathways that are growing in you, and basically they're capturing what works in life. And so all the way up to age 8, you're capturing most of the brain cells that you have to really decide what actions you're going to take. So watching people around you at that time cause you to do that. So first thing to recognize is it always starts with beliefs. The beliefs that you believe in yourself, right? That are there. And then what that happens is those beliefs turn into thoughts that you say to yourself, as well as thoughts you say to other people. So this would be on the pickleball court, for example. Yeah. This would be when you hear people say, "Oh, I'm no good at rolling the ball," or "I'm no good at my backhand," or "I can never hit my serve." So those are thoughts they're saying out loud, right? But they're also saying them internally to themselves, and it's also attached to some past belief that's connected there, right? So those beliefs lead to thoughts that you say to yourself and to others, and then those thoughts that you say to yourself to others then connect to emotions. So emotions, feelings, your physiology, right? Like you can notice when someone's not playing so good on the pickleball, their shoulders slump, they're yelling at themselves, they're talking, they're trying, all sorts of different things because that they're in that piece of the mindset. And then that leads into some sort of action, right? So, and then the action leads to a result, which then verifies or validates the past belief. So if I think, hey, I suck at a backhand, I have thoughts, I tell other people I suck at the backhand, right? Then other people go, yeah, you're not really that good. So that confirms it. Then I emotionally feel terrible every time that I had to hit a backhand. My physiology changes, which makes my backhand even worse. Right? So then my backhand doesn't go in. It verifies the belief, and then I'm back they're in that same rabbit hole.
So it's like a chain reaction. It's just like a cycle. Wow.
Can't even see it, right? And that's why you get coaching, because, right, you can see what they're doing with their backhand. You can change the belief, and once they hit it, then it's like, oh, I've got that. Right?
Yeah, we had a couple guys in the group that were specific shots that they were working on that they just weren't comfortable. Just trying to give confidence. Obviously, like little technique changes, things like that's important. But yeah, you're right. After they see a couple shots work or go in, they gain a little bit of confidence. And yeah, you're right. It totally changes.
That belief changed, right? And then their thought to themselves are now like, I can do this, right? And then they have better feelings about it. And
Yeah.
then they still may miss few because they're still learning the
Sure.
skill, right?
Yeah.
But they can still now see some really good ones where they're like, oh, if I just keep doing this, then, I'll keep having that growth, right? And so we saw that definitely for myself. I saw it for myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
As well as everybody, all three of us or four of us that were there. So yeah, I mean, that's the pattern that's there. So the first thing is, obviously it's hard to see blind spots. So really you want a coach to help you with finding that blind spot. But just keep in mind, it's the belief. If you're saying negative things to yourself about that, you got to stop it. Like, you just got to stop saying those negative things and start rephrasing it,
So what would be like a example, like the backhand scenario, right? Very typical scenario, but for any player, it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
But let's say it is the backhand. They avoid their backhand. They're running around their backhand. They say negative things. So what's a little thing? How do you rephrase that, or what would be a good starting point in that case?
Yeah, my backhand's improving every day. I mean, just start saying that to yourself. Because here's the other thing. Your brain is a machine that wants to produce results, right? So if you say, my backhand sucks, what's your brain trying to produce?
Well, I guess there's no results there.
There's no results. They're like, oh yeah, let's just make this worse,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what you want,
Sure. Yeah.
right? So the first step is, I always say, just say the opposite of what you do.
That makes it easy. Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're on one side of the spectrum that the world sucks, right? Or my game sucks, right?
Yeah.
Well, start by going to the other side of the spectrum, like, my backhand's my favorite thing, right? And so, although I say my backhand's my favorite, it's probably not my strongest suit. Like, most people say my forehand's better, but yet in my brain, it's like, I'll take backhands all day long, right?
Yeah.
And now my backhand has gone from medium to better and better and better to where it is today. But that's just because I constantly say that to myself,
Yeah.
right? So stop saying the negative things to yourself. And then the other thing, obviously, is eventually you got to get coaching to improve that, to back the validation up, right? So you got to validate what you're saying as well. And you might have hit one backhand, just one, really good.
Yeah.
We all have at least one.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one you need to attach your brain to. Like, that's what's possible. That's what I'm capable. If I did it once, it wasn't lucky. When you say lucky, that falls into the belief that my backhand sucks,
Yeah.
right? So don't say lucky, say that's exactly what I do with my backhand, right? And then you may miss the next ones and so on, but you still got to practice, you still got to get coaching. But the bottom line is you got to attach yourself with evidence of the things you have done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's another. It's you
I
know,
like that, man.
it all comes down to coaching. It really does. I mean, because if you're left to your own mindset, you're gonna go back to those past beliefs. So if you have consistent coaching to keep you in the positive beliefs, then eventually you'll start to make that the new automatic, so to speak.
Okay. What about players? So a lot of the people listening today have, like, they play tournaments and they feel that stress and pressure. And I'm sure, right, and you as a high performance coach, not in sports, but I'm sure like the people that you coach feel a lot of high pressure.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure that correlates a lot. But when they're on the court and you miss some shots, or you're in that negative rut, like, what are some ways, practical ways that you can think of now that you've played a lot of tennis, but you play pickleball now?
Yeah.
What are some mindset things, or even just some practical or tangible things that you can do that can actually help with that?
Yeah. So first off, again, start with your belief about your tournaments, right? Like, I'm really good at tournaments. Like, I love tournaments, right? Most people don't have that mindset.
Yeah.
So start with that, right? And then think about the thoughts that you say to yourself and others if that was the true belief, right? So if I love tournaments, the thoughts that I would be saying is I'd be telling you, hey, I'm going to win a pickleball tournament. Hey, I'm going to win this tournament.
Yeah.
Right? Just even if I'm not seeded, even if I'm not good, whatever, you need to be saying that because that's what's going to help you when you're actually on the court. Now, when you're on the court, like you're talking about, and like you're in a bad string of shots, or you're not playing so well, or you're still feeling nervous and things like that.
Yeah.
The key is you're in that phase of thoughts, right? You're saying to yourself, like in tennis and definitely in pickleball, you talk to yourself, right? You're all alone in that back corner talking to yourself before they serve to you or before you're serving. There's that little meaningless chit chat that you say to yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're intentional, right, and you have an intention to win this point, right, a lot of times what I do is I suggest that you create a power phrase for yourself to always set yourself on the right path in the moment.
Interesting. So what would be a good, like for pickle, what would be a good power phrase?
Well, I mean, I can share you mine, but
Sure.
I mean, basically, if I have the choice, like, oh, don't hit this one out. Like we say that, right?
Yeah. Or don't miss this into the net.
Just get this one in, right?
Yeah,
This is a crucial point. Don't mess this up, right? Those are the negative internal thoughts,
Sure.
right? So you got to quiet that up. And the best way to do this as you're walking back or as you're getting set, right, is to say some sort of phrase that's going to help you. Now, I do two different phrases, and my phrase is a lot of times I'll just say, all right, here we go, Jeff, game on, right? Yeah. And I just focus, and that's it. So like when I'm practicing, I don't actually do that often, but when I'm in a tournament or if I'm playing like for something super serious, then every point I'm doing that intentionally. If I'm practicing, usually I'm not in that mindset and I'm not doing that, which could be an improvement for myself, right? Yeah. Like I do it for big points. Like if like a couple of times you're like, all right, this is it. This is for the game, like then you might go, okay, all right, Jeff, game on, right?
I like that.
So I like that phrase. And then when you hit a great shot, the key is to always capture that validation for your brain, right? Because the more you can capture the validation, the more the brain believes that is what should always happen, right? Like it can happen every single time.
Yeah.
And that's why, sometimes I get stuck with things because I believe it's going in and I believe it can happen, even though it might be a lower probability shot, right? You saw a few of those. You're just like, how the heck why would you lob during a transition? But it worked, or sometimes it didn't, right?
Yeah.
But in my own mind, like I already had it, like it worked, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so the other phrase I say is something after a great shot, I usually like to reset my mindset by saying, that's exactly how you do it. Like that's how you do it.
And that's after you kind of like do
you
something.
might even hear it on some of the on some of the recordings that you did, right? You'll hear me say, that's exactly how you do it. Like you'll hear me say that sometimes, like when my partner hits it good too.
Sure.
I'll say, oh, that's exactly how you do it.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'll tell my partner, hey, let's go, game on, let's do it. Yeah. Right? I mean, like I'm trying to get them out of their own head without coaching them and so on. But that's kind of something. You need to have some sort of phrase or whatever to shake that up. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, cool, man. I really like that. Yeah. I'll have to. You know what? I don't know if I have one. I'll think of something. I gotta come up with.
I just think of tennis because back in the day, it's just like you're all alone back there. You're talking to yourself, and it's just like, oh, please let me hit this one in. I can't mess it,
Sure.
And you do that in pickleball so much. It's the same little mindset that tries to pull you back. And a lot of times, if you're not intentional, you're just constantly letting that run without you stopping that reel. And it's kind of hard, I mean, there's so many studies out there where I think they did a basketball one I always think is great where, they're shooting free throws, right? And it's like if you're telling yourself, I'm never going to make this free throw, and you shoot 100 of them, you miss so many more than if you tell yourself you're going to make every single one and you shoot 100. You're going to make so much more, right? And it's just that one phrase.
Got it. So positive thoughts, kind of a power phrase, you called it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, or on the flip side,
Yeah.
you talked about tournaments and when someone's struggling with something, positive thoughts, things like that. Sometimes things don't go your way.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you're going to be disappointed, or let's say you go into a tournament, right? And you have, a lot of it is what I'm hearing, right? Having a belief, but confidence, right? And let's say you do everything you can and you don't win.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate through that and continue forward in your journey or like whatever, right? Because this could happen in business, this could happen in life.
Yeah.
We want to think positively, we want to do those things, but what happens when we have those setbacks, we have those failures? Then what do we do? Because most people, like even myself, or if something fails, right, the natural tendency is to be like, well, that didn't work, or I didn't, or I said it and it didn't happen. Why would I say it again or think positively again?
Yeah.
Right. And because you could fail again. So what would your reply be?
So that kind of goes back to my process of action and reflection, the power of action and reflection, right? You took an action.
Yeah.
Now you have to reflect, right?
Okay.
So easiest thing is, what are the things that worked well? And what is one thing that I can improve?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's all you need. You don't need to focus on all the things that went wrong, but just what's the one that would make the biggest difference? And then that becomes part of your planning and preparation for the next one. I mean, I've played, I guess 4 tournaments in my life.
How long have you been playing, Jeff? Like less than 2 years, right?
Yeah, about a year.
Oh, a year.
A little over
Okay.
a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but nothing like it wasn't until, let's see, I played in the senior games, and that was, I want to say August last year, or August or July or something.
Yeah.
And I practiced for 3 weeks. So I practiced 3 weeks solid. I was playing probably 3, 4, 5 times a day, or not a day, a week.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
3 or 4 or 5 times a week, probably 5 times a week, and I went in there thinking I'm going to win it. Now I actually did win singles, so but the fact is I came in like that's what was going to happen. Now, I'll give you another example is, so we're in the round robin for my age bracket, 50 to 55 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm playing a gentleman, and he's up, I want to say it was 10-3.
Yeah.
Right? But I was still saying all my power phrases over and over through all those lost points and all those breaks, right? And I ended up coming back and winning 15-13 something like that.
Yeah.
And then that was in the round robin, and then I had to play him a second time, right?
Yeah.
But my brain was so programmed by the second time, I got a good run in the beginning. He came back, and I pushed it again at the end and won. But it was like, again, you still got to keep saying it to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then you learn from it, like what worked, what didn't work, And then I went to, I played another term. Well, like the recent one I did was in San Clemente.
Mm-hmm.
I played the senior pros.
Yeah.
I went in, I'm going to win it, even though I've played one before that, and I didn't do so hot, but I did good, decent. And the plan and the preparation of my action and reflection that I learned that I should do, which was drilling.
Yeah.
Right? Never happened. So now I'm going to this tournament with the same place that I was last time. But I still let that go, stuck positive, and pushed myself again. But again, if I go back and I had the same action and reflection, which was good for you for taking the action and just playing it.
Yeah.
I took fifth. And then, but the reflection was still the same. It's like, hey, you need to practice, you need to drill, and I just wasn't doing those things. So if I really want to win one next time, I really got to take the action of drilling and drilling and drilling, hiring a coach like yourself.
No, that's good.
Start doing those things, because if not, the bottom line, if I'm left to myself, I will do exactly what I did to prepare for that tournament, which was nothing much differently.
Yeah. So how do you know if you're having positive thoughts and you're working on your mindset, right? Because when it I don't know what the main things are when it comes into actually accomplishing a goal. Let's say you're trying to win a tournament, right? Mindset is big, but the skills are necessary.
Yeah.
Right. They have to be there, and then execution on that day.
Yep.
Right? I don't know what else could be there, but how do you know when it's mindset you need to work on, your skills you need to work on, or I guess execution is it blends both of them. I would guess.
Yeah, it works with both. It would be like if you're really good in practice, but you always lose in games. That's probably mindset.
And that's, I think, a lot. I mean, I get a lot of people who do that. They drill really well. They have the shots, and then when it comes to like pressure situations, so that's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the flip side, if you play really well but your results aren't there, then you would shift your focus on the skills and the drilling, or what?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the whole thing is, if you're playing really well and your skills are there, right? And you're just always missing shots when it comes to the pressure points or the tournaments or whatever, then a lot of that is probably your mindset. You're still stuck in some limiting belief that you can't win a tournament, or I always choke under pressure. As a child, right, you probably thought, I'm terrible at tests. Oh my God, I can't do anything with tests.
Yeah.
It's probably the same exact mindset. The brain's going, oh, this is just like when you took a test. Mm-hmm. You felt like you were terrible and you always failed them, so we're just going to do that same thing with this pickleball tournament, right?
Yeah.
Because the brain doesn't really care. It's just following what you're commanding it to do. And if you don't command it to do, it's looking back at the past to find something that would be similar or in correlation with it, that it could do that.
Yeah. No, it's really good, man. I like that. Cool, dude. Let's see. What else we got, Jeff? What else? So, I really appreciate all the mindset stuff. And, yeah, it gives me a lot to think about in my game. I think, I haven't played tournaments in a while, but even when I'm playing high pressure rec games with some of the top players here, I want to definitely think about that power phrase. I think that's something that I took away from this. And also, you know what? I'm naturally, as I've played, and you listening out there either could relate with this, or you probably may not know this, but I'm a big negative talker to myself at times. And that part of, and here's a question that I have, and I think sometimes it's not great, right? Well, it doesn't help. But I guess here's a question I have. I don't know if you've ever heard of any of Ben John's interviews, but he doesn't talk to himself positively all the time. Mm-hmm. But he says at times that helps fire him up or helps him. You see that in any scenarios? Or but I guess before you answer, one of the things he does do is he does reset before the point, but he uses that. Maybe he uses that to reset. I don't know. Or do you think negative talk or anything that's not positive could be helpful at times for anything? Or what is your thought process on that?
Yeah, there's two things around that. So one is I think you can still release it, right? Like it's okay to just release that negative belief and get it out. But if you don't have that reset, then it's tough because it's going to stay with you, right? You could also use it as a driver. Like, you're never going to win a pickleball tournament. Oh, yeah? I will show you, right? Like, how many times have we had that? You're not going to do this. You can't do this. And you go, oh, well, let me show you, right? So that negative could still help you on a positive way. It's just not going to be your highest performance level, right? Yeah. Like resetting. Now, his reset may blank all that out, and really elevate what's there. If it isn't, then there's still a performance level that can grow, right? Because the bottom line is that mindset needs to be solid, and the more you can release those. And the other thing too is not to repeat things over and over to yourself. So
like what? Like what do you
like
mean?
For example, if I say like I'm not good enough, okay, to myself internally, right? Or I'm stupid, or I'm dumb, right? Yeah. And if I say those kind of core beliefs that some people have, and I say them to myself, if I say them over and over, then I'm always in this constant battle to try to prove that, right? Yeah. That I am smart enough, that I am good enough, and so on. And so that will get you, that's kind of like strong-arming something through something. You'll make it work, and you probably will succeed if you're a determined person that's resistant, right? Yeah. But the bottom line is if you can release it once and then have it never acknowledge it again, right? Like say the phrase, I'm never going to use that as an excuse that I'm not good enough, or I'm stupid, or I'm not, I'm not good at pickleball, right? It's just, if you stop, you can say it once, but after that, eventually you've got to tell yourself, I'm never going to believe that again. Yeah. Right? And again, the negative side of saying it and the positive side of saying it, you really want it to be something different, right? You don't want it to be the same phrase. I'm not good at backhands. I'm good at backhands. Good at backhands is you're still saying the backhand word. Yeah. So yeah. Right? Yeah. So the brain's still like going, well, he says more not than good, so we're going to do that, right? Sure. Like, I'm a master on this side. Yeah. Would be a different way to say it, right? And then now the brain doesn't know what you're talking about, right? Because it's like, oh, yeah, right? Yeah. So that's another trick you can do is like shift it in a way where you're kind of faking out the brain, so to speak. So
Yeah. One of my well, it's grown to be, but when I was growing up watching tennis, obviously the big three. Now you're a little bit older than me, but I had
we didn't have three.
Yeah, obviously Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. Federer retired; he was my favorite player. But one player that I really have grown a lot of appreciation for, and is Djokovic.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he's broken all the records for everything. His mindset is at a different level, I would say, than a lot of players. What's the difference between like just positive thoughts and also just like resetting, and then how does like confidence play a role? Because you can have like confidence, like you can have a ton of confidence and not have it, right? Or you can have no confidence and have it, like the skill and all that. So like, where does confidence play in that, or is that different?
It's the same. It's the same. So confidence is, again, a belief, right? So like, I'm probably more confident than what my skill is, right?
You're saying you personally.
Me personally,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Like when I'm on the court,
Yeah, sure.
like I'm thinking any shots possible, right? And
Yeah.
you're like, what the heck were you thinking with
Yeah.
that one, right? Or
Yeah,
something,
sure.
And then some of those I make because that belief is still there that it's possible, and then I can do it, right? Now, without drilling that over and over,
Sure.
that confidence can't turn into consistency,
Yeah, got it.
right?
Sure. Yeah.
But the confidence of like, I mean, I've hit some rolls on either side that should not even be possible, and yet they are.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, how, on 10 times at my skill level today, how often could I hit that? Probably not a high probability, right? Because I'm not drilling that.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you look like a Djokovic, I mean, he's just a hard worker. I mean, that guy, like the difference of his workouts compared to Federer are like night and day. Federer worked out hard, but nowhere near the level that Djokovic does, you know, and it's just a different style. I mean, I like Federer a lot more as well, just because of I just resonate with him just being so relaxed and, his background and so on. But he too would rather rest than spend all his time out on the hard court.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Cool, man. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, confidence is a belief. I guess it's over time. You build it, right? I would assume that.
Oh yeah, you build it, and that's from drilling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I need to build my skill, catch up my skill to my confidence level. Because I mean, just at San Clemente, there's people I beat that definitely were better players than me.
Yeah.
Right? And I did that all through tennis as well. Same thing,
Yeah.
It's again the confidence level and your belief to be able to reset every single point is worth more than people think it is. Right? Like most of the game really is mental, right? It really is mindset. You got to have skill, but when you get to that pro level, like, like in pickleball and in tennis, and things like that, that pro level, they're pretty much the same mutant skill level.
Sure.
With each other.
Yeah.
Now, some of them may have a little better this, a little better that. And whatever, but the bottom line is the mindset to the top ones is way stronger.
Yeah, and I guess you can say that in every level, right? If you're playing a 3-5 tournament, if you're playing 4-0, if the skills are close, right? Whoever pulls it out, mindset is big. And I guess, sometimes in sports too, you can have more confidence. The skill could be the same, and it could not go your way at times.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Now you can go into like I hear this too all the time, right? You're in the 3-5 tournament, and they're like, oh, these guys are 4-5, they're sandbagging, and you're spending all your time and energy into that belief, right?
Yeah.
And because of it, you find yourself losing even faster and quicker than you should have.
Yeah.
Right? And who knows? Maybe they are sandbagging, maybe they're not. It really isn't irrelevant, because the game is that you're playing them right now.
Yeah.
And are you giving your best, or are you just giving your best excuse to not play your best? Right? And so I think that's another thing that shows up again. In fact, I think one of the gentlemen we were playing with was even saying, and we even almost won the first game, right?
Yeah.
Right? But they still had the belief that they were being sandbagged.
Yeah.
And because of that, they ended up losing and so on.
Yeah.
Because of that. But, it's that kind of thing. You can still win if you're really showing up to win.
All right. I like that. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Jeff, and I really appreciate you coming all the way from Idaho.
Yeah.
From Boise, and we may or may not be there this summer. We haven't figured out our plans, but you know what? I'll leave Jeff's information below in the description. I know you do some business coaching, and maybe leave a link for your book. For any of those romantics out there.
I always love performance coaching. Whatever it is.
Yeah. Anything you want to hit, Jeff, to close, or what, man?
No. I think I just I appreciate all the coaching you did this week. I mean that for those of you who haven't gone through it. I mean having a coach right there, like having you right there, was phenomenal, because instantaneously I could see the blind spot and I could grow from it. Now I got these blind spots that I know of, and now I can practice them, whether I'm playing, whether I'm drilling, whatever it is. And I think that's probably the most important thing is, don't try to see the blind spots on your own unless you're committed to recording yourself, becoming a professional, training yourself how to watch video and do all this stuff. It's like, by that time, you should have just hired the coach, right? Yeah. So get the coach, and I think that's the biggest thing that I appreciate is, all the work that you did this week. I mean, it's a lot of work for you, but it was phenomenal.
Cool, man.
For me. So thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Well, Jeff, thanks so much. And for those of you watching, make sure you like and subscribe. Yeah, check out Jeff below if you want to connect with him. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.
All right.